I am here today on behalf of the Eminent Scholars Archive with Mrs Cherry Hopkins, a trailblazing woman in law whose career here at the University of Cambridge has stretched 5 decades, if you can believe it. And it's a great privilege to interview you. If I could, I'd like to start just by summarizing your career so that those who are listening who don't already know can get an idea of who you are and what you have accomplished. You were born in 1941, I believe in Abingdon.
No, in Salisbury, Wiltshire.
Salisbury. Okay. You came to the University of Cambridge here in 1959 as a member of Girton College, where you studied law. You completed your LLB in 1963 and then embarked upon graduate studies. And you were also training for the bar at that time. You were called by Gray's Inn in 1965. And then you completed a master's degree in 1966, then became a fellow of Girton College. Is that correct?
No, I didn't have a master's degree.
Oh, you did not?
No.
Okay. My mistake.
No.
But you did become a fellow of Girton in 1966.
I became an official fellow in 1960, having been a research fellow.
I see. So you're a research fellow.
Yes, from 1964 to 66.
I assumed that you were doing graduate studies then.
Well, I was, but as a fellow from 64 to 66,
okay. So,
under a fellowship funded by the International Law Fund and the British Institute of International and Comparative Law.
Excellent. And so in 1966, as an official fellow, you became a lecturer and a tutor.
Yes.
And then, just to give a grand arc, from 1966 until your retirement in 2007, arguably but for a 5-year period in the 1970s when you took a pause, you occupied a variety of positions: director of studies at various colleges, an examiner, an assessor, a supervisor, a career that spanned 41 years by a linear count. From 1974 until the year 2000, you were assistant editor of the British Yearbook of International Law. And from 1996 to 2006, you were a convening note editor and then the note editor of the Cambridge Law Journal. And at the early end of your career, and then in retirement, you were a prodigious indexer.
Yes.
So if we could start at the beginning. You were born in Salisbury and raised.
Yes. I was born in Salisbury. My father was a scientist and he worked at the Porton Down research station near Salisbury. And we stayed there until I was 6. At that point, he was one of the first members of staff of the Atomic Energy Research Establishment at Harwell. So we moved to Abingdon, which was then in Berkshire, but now is in Oxfordshire.
Right.
So Abingdon really is the place where I grew up.
Okay. And so your father was a scientist, obviously, and I'm just wondering what was important about your upbringing that led you to stay on in academia, to pursue university studies and
It's difficult to say. I think I always assumed that I would probably go to university. My brother, who was nearly 10 years older than me, so he came to Sydney Sussex College when I was still quite young, and I think I assumed that was the sort of thing you did. Also, one of my father's sisters was an Oxford mathematics don. Mm-hmm. So I was used to the idea of academic life.
Right.
But I never had any thought of having a career in academic life at that stage.
Certainly not. And how did you come to study law?
There wasn't any history of law in my family. When I was in my O-level year at school, an old girl of the school came to give us a talk about law as a career for women. She was a solicitor, I think in quite a small provincial firm somewhere.
Do you recall her name?
I think it was Anne Ashton. Anyway, she made it sound a very interesting sort of work. So I tried to find out a little bit more about it and looked at a few books and thought, yeah, this looks fun. And so it was just like that. I did Latin, Greek and ancient history for A-level.
Classics.
Yes. But although I liked the Latin and Greek in particular, not so much the ancient history, I didn't see a lot of future. I didn't particularly want to become a teacher of those subjects. So I thought, well, I'll try and do law. And being a solicitor sounded a good idea. So that was my aim when I applied to read law at university.
Excellent. And you were one of 2 students in your year?
Yes, I was. The other one was at Newnham. She's Baroness Cohen of Pimlico, as she now is. There was somebody else admitted in my year at Girton, but after a week she changed to archaeology and anthropology. So
you were the only
I was
one.
the only one in my year at Girton. In later years, a few people changed over, but there were never more than single figures across the university of women reading law in those days.
No, I'm sure not.
Of course, it all changed in the late 1960s, largely thanks to so many of the men's colleges starting to go mixed. And that meant there was much more opportunity for women to come to Cambridge to do law.
Right, and possibly the cultural revolution that was taking place.
Maybe. Yes.